5, 4. What's going on, world? This is your host, Keith Curry, on Black Agenda Radio. We wanted to start off with the song of the month. I know y'all been hearing about this little youngster out here on Facebook, so I wanted to make sure I started off with her. I know y'all probably like, well, why are you doing that on Black Agenda Radio? But I think it make a very, 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 very valid point. I enjoy, uh, I enjoy seeing uh, people come into our culture and try to take it. For years, they've been, other people have been taking black culture and making millions of dollars off of it. So when I see, you know, uh, other people do crazy things, I enjoy to see that because often they just try to show us as black people doing crazy things. So, whenever you see that in the streets, acknowledge that because there's a lot of people out there that feel like they ain't in the same boat as us or they're better than us. So remind them that they have their crazy people too. All right, so moving on, I want to get into some hot topics of the day. Catch Me Outside is not going to be my main topic of the day. But, a lot's going on right now with Donald Trump in the presidency. President Trump, I'm going to give him respect of his title because unlike what they did to Barack Obama for many years, Obama this and Obama that, I'm going to actually address him as his formal title. He still is the president of the United States. So for President Trump, it's been a rough week. I know one thing. He swore that he wasn't going to go on one vacation. That was his number one tip off every day, that he was not going to do the same thing that President Obama did. And I'm not going down to golf every other weekend and this, that, and the other. But formally, I believe he's going on his third vacation today. So I just want to put that out there. 3 weeks in office, 3 vacations is real. Ladies and gentlemen, he is realizing that it is real, yeah, out there in the battlefield. So, speaking on some more issues that's been plaguing the White House, I believe it's General Flynn. Uh, Basically had to get the Nietzsche, get up out of there, for pleading ties with, doing things and having conversations, with Russia before President Trump became the president, when he was still president-elect. So, my biggest thing about the whole issue is that what do people have to, what does it take for people to realize that the system is always, uh, plagued with people not wanting to push for justice. And what I'm saying is that, okay, so for the same week, we got let me see, going to my topics to talk on today. We got a former 3-star general that just got demoted, retired 3-star general that just got demoted, Ronald Lewis, for using a government travel card, ladies and gentlemen, at a strip club. Now, this a brother, you know. And I'm not saying using a government travel card at a strip club is a good thing to do. But let me explain the process of a government travel card. Okay, so a government travel card is something that you use to go on government travel, obviously. And when you're traveling, you can pay, they give you so much money for meals, so much money for a rental car, blase, blase, all your expenses to live a comfortable life, while during travel under government services. So if you're in the military, TDY, or going to a meeting, if you're a 3-star general, probably just going to speak to someone at the Pentagon. Hey, I need a place to stay, blase, blase. You swipe this card, it pays for it. But what doesn't get covered is, what most people don't know about it is that, okay, when you swipe the card, whatever's been charged to that card, the government doesn't pay for all that. Meaning, whatever he purchased on that card, whatever he wasn't owed or his allowance for his travel was, he has to pay that out of his own pocket. So, I'm just saying they serve meals at strip clubs. They, have refreshments at strip clubs. It's not all beer and, just girls dancing on poles. He could have went there and ate a burger and, had a refreshing Sprite. Uh, the point I'm trying to make is that at the end of the day, this guy, uh, retired 3-star general, African American, sorry, Black American, was brought in and stripped of his rank because he went to a strip club and swiped his government travel card. But we got guys talking to Russia, and all they can do, they get the choice. You can just, Trump, President Trump called him in last night and say, "Look, you can resign, or I'm gonna have to do it. I'm gonna have to fire you tomorrow. What you want to do?" Black America has to be tired of this type of treatment. A retired 3-star general gets called in and demoted for money that he spent out of his own pocket, regardless if the government fronted it or whatever the case may be. He still went back and paid that money back. There's no due balance on his government travel cards. There's no fraud on his government travel cards. Yes, you're probably not authorized to go to strip clubs on a government travel card, but they pulled this guy out of retirement and demoted him. But we got white generals in the government kicking it with Putin, and they get a choice if they want to quit or be fired. He ain't getting demoted. I don't know what a 3-star general is making, but I know a retired colonel is probably bringing in about 75 to 80, 90K a year. They're not pulling this, white general in and demoting him. Think about it. Think about it. I don't get caught up in the smoke screens that the left side media and the right side media, that's the new thing now. It's a left and a right. I don't get caught up in any of that because at the end of the day, if you're with the left side, they don't want to do nothing but, you know, kumbaya you and put you in Section 8 to death if you black. And if you go with the right side, you almost got to forget that you like barbecue ribs, poke ribs, not beef ribs. You like barbecue poke ribs and put on a cowboy hat and some stances and ride a F-150. So it's either come here and be used on the left or forget that you really black on the right. So either way, it's a lose situation. So I don't get caught up in the media smoke screens. What we really need to be looking at in Black America is what's really going on. The same week that a guy gets caught up that's in the White House advising the president on national security, having buddy talk with Putin, get to decide if he wants to resign or be fired, while another black general in retirement is called back in to be demoted for going to the rump shake club? I don't know. I don't know. But I know one thing is I'm not going to sit here and act like there's a greater reason for all this to be happening. I'm not going to sit back and try to pretend like what Trump got going on and what the government is doing is going to better is going to better Black Americans. And I'm hoping that I can encourage some to really look at the big picture and do the same. Now, I posted that story about Mr. Ronald Lewis on the Facebook page. Now, I'm not covering up for Ronald Lewis. Hey, sir, as a general, you probably should have made better decisions. But it's just always funny to me how the black man gets one end of the stick and the white man gets another end of the stick. That's all I'm saying. All right, moving on. I was reading over some newspaper articles as I always do. And I noticed a article about a transgender doll that's supposed to be hitting the stores. I want to say this summer. Now, I'm not, I'm not a, I'm not against homosexuality. I'm not against gays. If my son came to me and say, Father, I think I like men, I'm gonna support him as my son because at the end of the day, my view on it is he's still a man, and I still can support him and contributing to society as a black man. Period. Regardless if he like men or not, that's neither here nor there to me. So I'm not in any shape, form, or fashion against people being treated equally. But I do have a question. It kind of tickled me because I looked at the doll. They had a picture of the doll, and if you look on my Facebook page, you'll see I'll upload a picture of the doll. And, I mean, my whole thing was I was kind of tickled. Like, how do we identify that this is a transgender doll? Either it's a Ken doll with long hair, or either it's a Ken doll with long hair, or I mean, there's no, when you a Barbie, we all were young boys, and of course, all the women know that when you play with Barbies and change their clothes and things like that. I mean, there's no genitalia on the dolls. So, what is a transgender doll? And I'm bringing this up, and I'm asking that question not to make fun of those that feel like it's necessary. Just help me explain. Just help me understand at what point at what point do we say I don't want to say enough is enough, but at what point does this stuff start not making sense anymore? I do feel that if a young boy feels that he is feminine and he wants to play with dolls, I guess he should have a doll that represents him. But does the doll really represent him, or is it just a Ken doll with long hair? Help me. Okay, moving on. Another big topic that's been kind of plaguing me this week has been why do I've been asking myself, okay, what are you going to really bring to the radio community that they don't already have? What is different about you and all the other people out there that's saying they want to do radio? And I answered that question as simply by saying, I don't have, you know, a doctorate in law or business or anything like that. But I do got a doctorate in humanity, and I think that once again, Black America is always either forced to accept being in bondage through social systems or forced to forget their identity and be accepted into corporate white systems. And I think that there's time that the Black community just have something that's designed for the Black community. So that's why I decided that I was going to name the show uh, Black Agenda. And that's why I decided that, yes, I do have something to offer radio. Um, you know, you listen to many people right across the bay, right across the bay. I'm here in Oakland doing the show right across the bay. There's many of people that get on the radio and they shout all this different things and try to stimulate certain cultures, middle class white culture, to look at America in a certain way. Now I'm running out of time. I got to take a break. But when I get back, I'm going to address that and address why I feel like I have a firm stake in this radio game. All right. This is Keith Curry, your host. Stay tuned. Black Agenda Radio. We'll be right back. Hello, hello, hello. This is Keith Curry on Black Agenda Radio. Right before the break, I was talking about my stake in the radio game and why I feel like I should be here on my technically second show, but very first show on Black Agenda Radio. And my biggest thing is that you know let's just be honest. A lot of white people listen to the radio, and there's a lot of radio talent that fuel their foolishness, meaning they get on the radio and they incite garbage. The media turned Black Lives Matter into a mafia, but yet the KKK get to roam the streets as free willy nilly. Um, so I decided upon myself that I'm going to combat the foolishness. I'm going to be a voice for the black community to filter through the muck and expose propaganda for the whites to help the black community. That's why this show is called The Black Agenda, right? We need to get an agenda about ourselves. And until we do that, we can't help ourselves because we don't know which way to go. See, the whites, they unify and they come together and they get, they have Trump do one thing and then CNN to say this to appease some people in the black community. Then Fox will say this to compete, to pacify some conservative blacks in their communities. But then in reality, the middle class black community has nobody speaking on their behalf and nobody speaking on issues in a way that they can truly understand and reflect on how those issues affect them in their everyday lifestyle. So that will be my claim to fame. All right. My biggest uh, motivator, or I could say the number one person in media that motivated me to want to do this, is a guy out in San Rafael, and everybody loves him, Mr. Savage. Now I don't know if his name's technically Savage, but I know his radio station show is Savage Nation. I'm not putting Mr. Savage down. I actually admire Mr. Savage. Um, just take a time out and YouTube Savage Nation sometimes and hear the things and understand the things that he is saying. And understand this when you're listening to what he's saying. Understand that the white soccer mom that might smile at you at the red light or passing out juice boxes to your kids is listening to Mr. Savage and being fueled by what some may consider, just be blunt, racist or bigot commentary. Those people that say, "Oh, I have white friends," live through Mr. Savage. I see it all the time. I see it all the time. See, they get to walk the street and smile in your face and shake your hand at work, and then they get in their car, and when they get home from work, they put on Mr. Savage and get to hear all the latest news on the white agenda, and they live through that. I listen to the white women call his station. Now I look at women as the fruit bearers of the earth, loving and tender. I hear white women call this station and tell him how much they admire him and how much he speaks for the people. I'm not gonna comment on what he says on that station. I want you to go listen to it and understand that that pastor that got that mega church, if he's white, he probably listened to Mr. Savage and is being fueled by this racist commentary, comments that's made every day by a man that lives in San Rafael. He got a New York bestseller called Scorched Earth. Do you understand where scorched earth terminology comes from? Well, if you don't, let me help you out. Not World War nothing, in the Civil War, the Confederates basically adapted a policy to keep the North from being able to use resources or their resources, that they would go town to town, and when they fought in that town, they would burn it to the ground. It became the scorched earth policy. So yes, he smiles, and yes, he has a big vocabulary, and yes, he's a doctor, and yes, he got all these different degrees, and yes, on the outside, he's probably a friendly man, but he has an agenda. And your very president, 2 weeks before being elected, went on his show about 3 times. Name another radio talk network, as much as President Trump says he's against media, went on to their outlet 3 times before the election. But he made sure to give Savage Nation more than a generous cut of his media exposure 2 weeks to being elected. Because Mr. Savage knows what his job is to do. Keep the underbelly of lower and middle class white people upset, so that President Trump can come in and put in whatever policy and do whatever he want to do to rape the system. I didn't say rape black people. We ain't got no choice but to come up. We caught up in so many different systems at this point, there's not much more that they can do with us. But let me tell you something. White people are the majority on welfare. All right? And Trump is coming in to cannibalize his own kind. And they can't even see it. So what I encourage you to do is, when you go outside and you see your white neighbor, pull them to the side and speak to them. Tell them what you go through when you go down and try to get a job, or when you go down and try to do this or do that for your family. Because they need to start realizing that it ain't a black and white thing no more. See, Trump, it's all about this black and white thing. But that's irrelevant, because this ain't about color. This is about corporations. If you look at Trump's cabinet, the wealth in Trump's cabinet has more money than 70 of the poorest nations in the world. This the White House. This ain't got nothing to do about black and white, brown, yellow. People like to say purple, whatever. It ain't got nothing to do with color. But as long as they can push this Black Lives Matter is the mob, Obamacare is the most horrible thing that could ever have happened to you, bullcrap into the middle class and lower class whites' heads, just vote red or fall dead policy, then they win it. Because what America don't realize is that they ain't coming for the black folk. They ain't coming for the black community. They finna mess these white folks up. And they don't even see it. Looking at black people. Let me break something down to you. And this is something that's been burning me up forever. Bush's 9/11 was his key to go over into the Middle East and do whatever he wanted to do. For the American people, we was ready to go. Obama is Trump's 9/11. Be smart. Be smarter than that. This Black Agenda Radio. I'm not trying to pull no wool over your eyes. I wouldn't lie to you. Be smarter than that. Think about it, Black America. They gave us an African American president. Think about that. His mother is from Kansas somewhere. and his daddy is from Kenya. There was a prince, a chief of his tribe in Kenya. So in the real sense, he is a true African American. Is that resonating with you? So when you look at the media for the last 8 years and all you can see is them slandering a black man, it was a setup. They've been building this up. They got the blueprint. It's called Hitler in World War I. Now, like I said, I ain't got no doctorate, but I got a PhD in humanity. And I ain't nobody fool. Obama was put in place to represent Black America, when in actuality he's Afro-American. And the only reason he is American is because his mother is American, which makes him American. Yes, he was born in Hawaii. I'll take that. But his connection to America is more white than it is black. Now, I'm glad to see a brother that looked like me in the White House. But that brother ain't like me. Outside of his skin, he's not like me. I'm from West Memphis, Arkansas. Proctor. My own grandfather was killed by the Klan in 1982. The same year Spike Lee put out Do the Right Thing, my grandfather was getting his head blowed off outside of his gas station with a shotgun blast to the back of the head. Nobody never went to prison. So Obama, even though he might be a brother in our gene pool lineage, we all connected to Africa, he is not my brother, meaning he didn't grow up in my struggle. His ancestors were never slaves. And the whites allowing him to be in power understand that. So the black community sit around and say, oh, well, what is he going to do for us? He don't understand what to do for you, man. He don't understand what to do for you. Think about it. And for the last 8 years, they've been prepping them white people to be inflamed. Look at what this black man doing. Look at him. He's a Muslim lover. I think he's Muslim and all this and all that. Let's see his birth certificate. So Trump can come in and say what y'all want to hear, and y'all were just going to roll over and just let him do it. He was just tickling y'all belly. Just y'all was loving it. Well, guess what? Y'all wanted to see Obama birth certificate. I want to see Trump taxes. That would let you know it ain't about black and white. See them taxes. And what you're going to realize is he ain't paying none, while you paying everything. This Trump presidency ain't about taking nothing from black folks. They finna take it from their own kind. It's about the rich getting richer. And I encourage white people to get on board with the black community and push for what's right. Now, this is my first show on Black Agenda Radio. I don't really know if you like it. Hopefully you do. I want everybody to know that I'm not racist. I got a half-white son, live in Britain with his mother. Very beautiful lady, very beautiful child that I have. So I love all people. But this is Black Agenda Radio. So don't listen to this radio unless you want to know what's good for the black agenda in America. Period. That's what I'm here for. Thank you for listening. And until next week, I'm off. Check out my Facebook page, Black Agenda Radio on Facebook. I'm Keith Curry, your host. Take care, God bless, and open your eyes and never be blind.